Testing. Oh, I think we have it. Okay, there is... Oh, no, it's frozen. Uh-oh, hold on. One more second. I'm going to try to disconnect and reconnect one more time, guys. We have sound and no video this time. So we'll do that one more time and see if it works on both. Testing. No, I don't. It's not recognizing the light. But we're getting sound. Just not the video. Okay, just a moment, guys. Testing.
All right, we're good.
Yes! Oh my goodness. I was trying to do that without stopping the whole show, you guys. We had a new generator put in.
Yeah, we had power shutdown on Friday, so I think your presets got confused.
Yeah, or this camera did not want to connect to the computer correctly because the mic is in the camera. So sorry about that, guys. A little delay on that, but we got it going. So thanks for bearing with us on that. So this is Cindy.
And Michael.
From Part-Time Permies. For any of those of you guys who might be new, I haven't even looked to see who's in the room yet with all that chat going. I glanced over a couple times. We had Incense Shop. Oh boy, can't talk. Incense Shop stop in. The White Picket Fence. Kiri from Built on the Rock Homestead is here. Bree, Suburban Hillbilly. Hello, hello. I'm just trying to see who else in here. Mom's in the room.
Mm-hmm. Linda Taylor.
Linda Taylor's here. Did we miss anyone else?
I think that's about it. Green Raven.
My goodness. Green Raven, yes. Hello. Anyone else? I think we got it. Anyway, sorry about that. It didn't take me a half hour. I did see that. Or actually, Mike read it, that Justin had problems with his computer today also. I completely missed Justin's show today. It's for the private, or the premium members. So I know Tina's in that a lot of times. Linda's in that a lot of times. And a few other people as well. But, got it going. So, sorry about that. We did want to let you know that we did get a video up today. Been bad about getting them out during the week, but on the nursery tractor. So Tina, if you haven't looked at it, I think you responded on the share on the Facebook group, but we did get a little summary on how we put together this nursery tractor. We're not doing an active build on that style at the moment. We don't have that in the plans right now. So, he was asking for it.
Yeah. Speaking of the phones on the wall, have any of you seen the YouTube videos where they give some like high school kids the old rotary phones and tell them to figure out how to use it?
Oh yeah.
And it took them a good while to figure that one out.
Yeah.
They were pretty stumped.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Anyway.
Since probably almost everybody in here's used a rotary dial at some point.
I don't know. I don't know how young the youngest is in this room, but I actually have no idea of ages of hardly anybody in this room.
That's true.
But anyone in our generation, well, the rotary ones were.
Most of us had rotaries because the push button, the crystal phones that had the crystals in the receiver,
yeah,
on the cord came out in the early 80s, so most of us started out probably with
rotary. But when
rotary.
we were really young.
Yeah, we were pretty young.
We were pretty young and not really using the phones much, although all the play phones had it. Yeah, my pee-pee bump's in the video. It is in that video. So, yeah, I was sitting on top of that coop for half the video, or most of the video. But, oh, here we're getting age.
There we go. We're both in our early 40s.
Yes, so that's funny. So I think most people... Oh, there's a 38.
Bree, okay.
Bree may or may not remember it, although they probably still had the toys.
Green Raven's trying to play 16. Yep. All right. Yeah, okay. So everybody's in their basically 40s, 50s. That's sort of what I had guessed with a lot of the core group. But
yeah. You know what's funny?
We have a whole mix.
Yeah, my analytics isn't showing ages or genders as total like subs and stuff.
Oh, is it? Can you do that? Or?
Yeah, it's supposed to give those numbers, but it hasn't for like 6 months. So
well, they've started to back off some of that because the real estate companies and credit card companies are getting sued for. You could get your profile too tight for discriminating on things that are legal, have very strong legal standards. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes for marketing it's helpful. But
49.999.
Most time it doesn't matter much.
Yeah.
But yeah, for us, for our analytics, it doesn't mean anything really.
It doesn't really mean anything. Although I did find it interesting because at the beginning I had a lot of more building videos, and when I had more building different projects videos, I had more men watching. And then as we started doing more foraging and cooking and stuff along those lines, we had more women watching. So it did change over time.
Oh, Hesitant Homestead. We met them, yeah. So Cindy did a live feed, I guess, for about most of an hour working with some of the kids. We had invited adults to do it too. Well, let's see. We had Patty Alderman. She made pasta.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Patty...
I don't know if any of the other adults did.
She didn't make it. She was sitting and watching and asking questions, though.
Oh, wasn't she? She was next to me. I thought she was making something.
Not in the video. It was all kids, unless she joined you afterwards.
I think she was in there. I think she was playing with it, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had it meant for anybody, any age, because it really works for any age.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And a lot of kids were so into it. Jamie's youngest was the one giving instructions for the second round of kids who joined in. It was kind of funny. But, yeah, so that was a lot of fun. We have that video out last weekend. And that was a live show.
So we went live with that. And then... Two Family was live all day, but we sat in for a few minutes. I don't think because they had a booth set up, they weren't taping that.
No,
specifically, but
no. But yeah, I didn't realize there were others going live.
Yeah, Patty was next to me making some dough. I know she was.
Yeah,
she waited some of the kids first, but then,
I think it was after I stopped
think there
the
were
video.
probably some other. Adults that probably want to. I brought plenty of flour and plenty of eggs. So
yeah. Well, next year.
But it's,
do something fun next year too.
So because you never know, there's people that haven't done it in a long time or want to try it. It's a pretty good. After all, you can get the videos of pasta grannies, and most of them are in their 70s and 80s. They just I think put one up of a pasta granny who's 100 doing, and I have not seen that one yet. I just saw the headline.
Yeah. So
as long as you got enough arm strength and hand strength, that's
sure.
So only the very young and very old
have trouble.
Have a problem with that. And as you get older, you find ways to get around it too, and make up for any loss of hand strength.
Yep. So I was actually considering once I have time, maybe taking that live stream video and editing it and re-releasing it as a shorter version of the same thing, because a lot of people have trouble watching a whole hour video. There was a number of people who did.
I'm actually doing demo. I'm doing a professional demo tomorrow. You should. Sometimes they have it on. Well, they have it on the screen.
Do they do it through the community college?
Well, it's in the big demo theater. They have 4.
Oh yeah.
They have 4 cameras. I don't think they're recording it. They could easily, but because they run 4 cameras.
Yeah.
You come over at 1:30 and take a long lunch break for 40 minutes.
Yeah, can't do that.
So I'm teaching a class on how to make egg pasta, which is an offshoot of this.
Yeah.
For instructors, so Pro Start or tech instructors. I think most of them will be at the high school level, but they could be junior high, home ec, on up possibly through Pro Start's pretty much high school. It's not college.
Right.
So I'm going to be teaching a
Group of
how
teachers.
to make and how to teach very simplistic pasta and fresh tomato sauce, because we just got our fresh tomatoes in the last week or two.
Watch Bon Appetit.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen those.
Okay.
Yeah, Pet Burns the Petty. She definitely made dough.
Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, she was sitting in the front the whole time, though, asking questions the entire time about things. So that was kind of fun. But yeah, so we had to Hootenanny last week, got back, did our live then, not much prep on the live then. Been busy all week with just work and business.
I had a special event Thursday night, and I'm selling pasta as fast as I can make it at the moment. So we're trying to find places to catch up on producing and packing more. A lot of my help has been unhelpful. They've been on vacation, so
they haven't been around. It's
they
not
haven't
that they're
been
not
around.
Unhelpful. They just haven't been around.
They haven't been available to take as many hours as we could use. So
yeah, it's been nuts, and this week a little bit too, right? A little short on hours, help hours this week.
Yeah, well, that continued for the last 2 weeks, and then at special events.
Do you think August would
almost
slow down?
every week? Yeah, I have this little teaching segment tomorrow, which will take a good portion of my day. It's sort of a catch-all day, and then next week we're back to a night market, third week night market. So that grabs much of Thursday, which is a sort of a transition day. So yeah.
And the white picket fence says, "Can you add flavors to your pasta?"
You can. I'm always a little hesitant to do it because I think good pasta just tastes nice and it's a blank slate. It's so easy to put flavors into sauces or your garnish items. And so the one drawback is when you're using a lot of mass of flour, it's going to be, 90% or better flour. Mm-hmm. You have to get that flavor to penetrate through the mass of the flour and the starch. You also have to maintain decent color, and you need to maintain it through the cooking process. So if it breaks down during cooking or is very water soluble, a lot of it can get trapped in thicker doughs where the flavor will stay in there. So you can get a lot of muted flavors, which I find, or people use a lot of dehydrated products that aren't very good quality, or other things where I just don't find the intensities there. And so I would rather not have a flavored pasta unless it's really good. But penetrating herbs and spices like citrus and pepper and dry spices, I use concentrated hydrated. They're fairly intense, not always quite as intense as I'd like. So there are ways to do it. You can use juices and purees. You can always replace pureed fruit or vegetable for your liquid. It's usually, you try and get about 1-to-1, and then of course with the fiber and other things you have to make some adjustment. So you can play with it, and then another thing you have to watch out for is too much sugar in items, because the sugars dissolve very quickly and can ruin the pasta, so you need to compensate for sugar.
So White Picket Fence made a chicken pesto with a great chicken pesto with the casarecce.
That sounds good.
Pasta.
We did.
So what were the two types you sent her? Casarecce, obviously.
I don't remember. Did I give you one of the flavored or colored ones?
Yeah. As you were just talking about flavors, we do have a couple.
We're ranked 2 right now.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I slipped in there. I know I get casarecce. I send a lot because I find it so versatile. Yeah. It's a little more chewy. So if you don't like a heavier pasta, that can be a little bit of a drawback. But for most people, they find the weight, the chew, and the ease of use to make it just a go-to for a lot. And I think for like a chicken pesto, I used it. We made a chicken scarpariello, which is a vinegary, spicy, garlicky thing with chicken and peppers and hot peppers and sausage. Yeah. Typically, it's finished with roasted potatoes, but we were doing it for this event, so I slipped in casarecce with that. And sold quite a bit of it. So.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good. A little spicy for some people, but it's really good. I like spice.
I took the spice down a little bit from what it might be served East Coast or with the Sicilian or traditional. Could be use hot cherry peppers, and I use sweet cherry peppers.
Yeah. So let me go see.
Yeah, I really don't remember.
If it was that flavored one, I've had so many people at the markets mention making like pasta salads with that.
That's what, a lot of people have been buying. So funny thing is, I don't think I wrote a invoice for that yet. I usually write a credit invoice to myself just so I know where it goes. I use it as a promotion.
Campanelli's the other one.
Okay, I was wondering, is it did I give you the plain one or the colored one?
If it's the color one, that's the flavor one he does. There's one that has 4 colors that has like carrot and red bell pepper and spinach, and then the regular. So anyway, it's all dehydrated of those, right? That you add
Those are dehydrates, yes.
Yeah.
Right, they work real nice with that because they're good penetrating flavors. That's interesting. We might at some point. It's probably going to be winter because it's way too busy right now.
Yeah, as things slow down, that's a good idea. We should do a cooking.
We have some lighting problems in our kitchen. Our hood is very low. In fact, to the point if I bend in, I can bash my head into the glass on it, which I've done many times.
And so have I.
It's just set wrong, and then it's got little LED lights, blue LEDs that
it's just annoying.
Are too low, and then the rest of the lighting in the kitchen isn't real strong. So I do think we throw a lot of shadows. It's a little. I could do a little. I have a downstairs kitchen too.
What do you think of the pasta attachment for the Kitchenaid?
I think that the roller one, the pasta bike roller one, is pretty good. I know that they sell, or I don't know if it's Kitchenaid or somebody else makes an extruder
for shapes.
That presses some shapes. I have not worked with it, but I'm very leery. One, that it really gives enough pressure, and 2, the integrity of it lasting for any long period of time for making it worth the price. But the roller one is pretty sturdy, and lots of people buy them, and I think it's good. Now you can get a little pasta bike for probably, you'll find them all over used, the little crank ones, hand cranks, for $15, sometimes $10. If you just look, like Yahoo.
Not yet. Facebook Marketplace
or Facebook, Facebook.
You keep calling Facebook Yahoo.
Yeah, or if you go on eBay or whatever. They're like $30 or $45 new, but there are so many people that buy them and tend to use them and then sell them.
Yeah.
I think those are really rugged as long as you don't let them rust. They'll last for years, and then you can get bigger ones for a little more money that are more useful if you're doing a lot.
You put tips on how to clean them in the live stream video.
Yeah, you clean them with flour, just flour. They get sticky.
Yeah.
Sort of like cleaning rolling pins. Use flour, never use water. They get a little oily for some reason, which they shouldn't, or they get a little eggy and sticky and wet. Just lots of flour and crank it on there, wipe it on there, and then try and blow it off or wipe it off. Or even, a lot of times when you run your sheet of pasta, it'll knock it off. Even if you put it away a little bit floury, you could get some. The flour eventually goes stale or rancid. So try and remove it as possible before you make your next batch or get your first piece through. But yeah, just use any old flour, white flour, to dry it up and clean it, and it won't rust. So.
Yes, and by the way, the white picket fence that was talked about, the organic semolina, that took 6 months to figure out how to get it into Kalamazoo.
Well, now I'm still fighting with it because I lost the tractor trailer transfer between companies 2 months ago.
Yeah.
They didn't tell me for about 6 or 8 weeks, I guess, almost. I'm another month plus chasing it. I found some substitutes that I'm working with now. It's organic. It's pretty good. It's a little different. It's a little darker in color. It's a little more brown than yellow, which is fine. It's just milled slightly different. Flavor's slightly different, but it's good. So I'm using that right now. I have the one that I've selected, the one I was getting before in bulk. I think I have it routed through a different company, and they're doing the same thing. It's a transfer, but it's a preferred company. The company that makes it is a organic mill, Sperry. When you go look, they said there's no wholesalers within 200 miles. I called them up. I said, "You got to be crazy. We're less than 200 miles from Detroit and Chicago, as well as Indianapolis and all. Where are you selling this stuff? There's got to be somebody." And then they told me that they had a preferred, and they could ship it on the preferred about twice a month. And so I established an account with them, and then it didn't make it. It's supposed to be this Wednesday.
Yeah.
Supposed to have 20 bags, which is almost half a pallet.
Yeah.
And it didn't make it.
20 bags, 50-pound bags at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
Well, I need them. I mean, I'm going to go through the first 10 in a hurry, and then probably turn around and order another 10 to 20 on the next delivery. So, and then the other thing is I don't take heavy truck delivery here regularly.
No, I can't do that.
So I had to find another account in the area that getting 20, 50-pound bags of flour isn't going to be a problem for them in their way. And so I think I've done that. I had a verbal agreement to be able to change my delivery to another local restaurant brew pub that carries a lot of grain. So I was told on Wednesday I went to go ready to pick it up, and I found out they didn't ship it. They said it didn't meet the minimum, and I have exceptions. In fact, I had exceeded the minimum.
Yeah.
And so I have notes all the way to their key
It's
staff.
just been a crazy.
So now they've reordered it, and they showed that paper trail of staff saying, look, we're willing to send as little as 5 bags, and it needs to have an exception and a routing. And so they supposedly did that on Thursday. So I'm waiting for the middle of this month, and I'm supposed to have my 20 bags. So, it's going to become a problem because otherwise, the place I'm buying it from, I don't know how much they carry. Like they're a secondary company, how much they carry, and I'm paying too much for it. So, but I need to have it to keep it available.
Yeah.
So it's working out. It's just
a pain.
Typical. We're fighting for good ingredients, and that's part of fighting for good ingredients is the logistics on them and keeping them priced so that we can put product out and we can all make our little piece in the middle.
So you're making a cookbook?
Not that I'm aware of.
We do have a few recipes.
I could make a cookbook if somebody wants to be the professional writer author, and we could co-collaborate it because I don't have enough time.
Yeah, no, right.
Otherwise, yeah.
We do have. We're slowly putting. I need to put more up as you give them to me, but we're slowly putting recipes up on the pasta webpage. So various pasta recipes. Some of the videos that we did on Part-Time Permies that were pasta related, we released on there as well. So if you're ever looking for pasta recipes. What I am
doing is changing up recipes. I'm not publishing them right now, but
yeah, you need to write them down and give them to me.
You need to write them down when I'm doing them, and
I can't do that.
Put them together. But I am changing my pastas in the market about once a month or a little bit faster. So I'm running 2 items a month. In fact, I'm running a 3rd item this month because we did a special.
Yeah.
So I am trying to do things that are fairly seasonal or a little bit more unique or traditional Italian as an introduction about how good things are. So
yeah, and 2 families youngest. I saw that note that 2 families youngest granddaughter once won the pasta bites.
Oh, she made so much
yeah.
pasta, and she took a lot of scraps, and they're putting in their trailer. They were probably eating pasta for days.
Probably.
Which is fine. It's cheap and easy. As I said, you can have almost any kid do it. You can even use the plastic, vegetable knives to cut it. It works fine. So it's all super good for a group of kids, minus the potential flour cleanup all over the floor, which isn't even that bad. But yeah, it's pretty easy.
Oh, thanks, Suburban Hillbilly, posting our pasta webpage. So the other question, actually, I'll pull it up on my cell phone, was one that Tina was asking about for a cooking thing. Let me just pull that up here. Hold on. Do you have a recipe for bread pudding? Husband regrets not getting the recipe from his mother before she passed away. He said when she made her bread pudding, it was pudding texture, not with the big chunks of bread in it. And
so there's a lot of ways to do that. I've made quite a bit of bread pudding. I work with some English chefs, and of course, bread pudding really falls probably more into the custards and of that sort of English. Kind of the English-Irish world seems to really like good dairy desserts. Of course, we do it in France and Italy, and everybody has it. But it just seems like that and pays a lot of attention to creams and fruits and pudding. So, the key is a good amount of eggs to help hold it. I use a heavy cream base. Heavy cream one, it's richer. But it also prevents things from breaking. You get a tighter custard. The one disadvantage of using heavy cream, aside from heavy cream is more expensive than milk or half and half, is too much fat will start to clog your palate, and clean flavors do not penetrate through heavy cream as well. So you need to be a little more intense. So you can be as simple as a milk and egg custard, milk and whole egg, to as complex as heavy cream with a good amount of egg yolks or whole eggs, and then of course sugar. You don't need a tremendous amount of sugar in it because A lot of times you're adding in garnish items like fruit or chocolate or different things, or sweet bread that is going to add a lot of sugar to it. So you can keep your custard moderately sugared. Um, I have a recipe. I'm trying to remember where. I have a pretty good idea. I have a little book with a bunch of classic dessert recipes that I use all the time. I may go grab it. Just trying to remember where it's at. And I can give you a ratio that works really good. So things with bread pudding are use good bread. You can use anything, but ideally use good bread. This all goes the same for stuffing, for like turkey, poultry, savory stuffing. The better the bread, the better your stuffing. You can use cheap, 90-cent Wonder Bread, but it's going to collapse. It doesn't have a lot of structure. It doesn't have a lot of flavor, and it'll work. It's just not that great. It doesn't have to be fresh. In fact, it's better to be a couple days old and starting to get a little crusty. It can be sometimes you toast it for more flavor. So some classic French recipes will take a basic white bread or a brioche and actually toast it, so you get some intense flavor. Or they'll even butter and toast it, so you get that buttery flavor. And you can lock pieces of buttered. You can have buttered toasted bread that are actually locked into the custard. Once you select, what you want to put in it. Oh, by the way, you can use other things, leftover pastries, leftover all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I like raisins in general, but it's fine. You don't have to. You can use fresh fruit, dried fruit, no fruit. You can put in chunks of chocolate or nuts.
Some raisins.
I tend to put a little liquor in it, usually a little rum and vanilla, but you can use orange flavors, other things. You can obviously soak your fruit.
What bread do you use?
I tend to use a nice, well, it depends on what I have a lot of, but I like to have like a nice egg bread. Brioche works well, but brioche can kind of fall apart. Challah doesn't fall apart as easily. Brioche, because of all the butter in it, the crumb falls apart. So I just cube it up. Cinnamon breads, and did a raisin walnut bread that we used to have around a restaurant. That actually makes it really nice. It's interesting how some of the more savory breads still work really well. You can use rolls. You can be limited on rye bread, and whole wheat's fine, but full on whole wheat is good, but maybe you want to mix it up. Used all kind of, the chef, he used to use the leftover danishes and donuts and everything. He actually used it for a savory stuffing. He would just scoop out the jellies or the creams or whatever. I think that's a little too heavy, because there's people that make donut bread pudding, like yeast bread pudding, and it collapses, and I find it too greasy. So be careful on that. A lot of people think croissants is the way to go, and that croissants can also get a little greasy because they're buttery, but they're better. And that's a big, that's kind of been a big thing. Crusty breads work nice. Crust break down, or you can cut some of the crust off, and then you can avoid really crumbly things like muffins, like bran muffins, and just generally the muffins, because they have so much fat built into them. I think they get dense and soggy. You can try it. It's not the end of the world. Just you'd be better off using a bagel than a muffin, in my opinion. Because and then the big thing is let it soak. So you can let it soak for an hour in a big bowl, or you can let it soak overnight, and it will absorb a lot of that liquid, leaving less custard around, and let everything expand and break down. So you do need to make sure you have enough custard for it. It might be a surprising amount. So that soak period is one of the most important things. And then grease your pan and bake it off. In the South, a lot of times put clear gel or other sweet syrups over the top when they're finished. So if you want to have it smooth, a couple things could happen. Probably used a bread that had the crust cut off of it. Probably used a milk bread, a traditional home-style milk and egg bread, or a brioche that may fall apart a little more and have some nice structure. Probably chopped it up a little bit, but you can paddle it in a mixer or by hand, and especially if you wait until after it soaks, you can give it a good stir. And you can stir it as much as you want, and it'll break your cubes up, which I kind of like. It'll break your cubes up into a bready mess, and so that I'm going to suggest might be might be what she was doing. And then you have some English puddings, which are stir-togethers, like figgy pudding and toffee pudding and things like that, that they're made from raw ingredients. And so, but if it's based off of already cooked bread, I'm going to guess it's crustless, soaked, and stirred, and may have been a pretty simple bread. The other thing I like, I like the challah. The brioche is a little harder to work with. What were we using? I don't know. I made so many different types of bread pudding. So for me, a bread pudding is a throw together. Use a lot of your leftover stuff at the end of the week. Did a lot of Sunday buffets. Something you could make pretty quick on Sunday afternoon. You could bake off pretty big pans of it. You could throw whatever type of garnish. It's very cost effective in a restaurant. I consider it it's not a no cost, but it's pretty low cost, and you can and then you can do nice things like, punch it out into molds and put creme anglaise around it, or vanilla sauce, or different things, and you can dress it up, cut it into triangles. So it's a really good way to
Four Horns Farm.
Yeah, to make a a nice, well liked dessert that isn't too difficult. But yeah, I'll try and run and grab. I have a little blue notebook that has some pastry recipes that are from a couple sources that I really like. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember if I have it downstairs where it used to be, or if I think I moved it into my office. Mm. And
you don't have it on the shelf here?
No, I wouldn't have it here. I'll see if I have it.
Okay. And then while he disappears, we won't talk about cooking since that's not what I do. But we'll go and bounce around. And if you think of questions for him when he gets back, just keep typing them in there. But the other topic I wanted to go through was just what's out in our Zone 5 right now. So we're going to move to foraging here for a minute. I did get a few of these labeled, and we'll go through a few each week. But those of you guys who know this one, Queen Anne's lace with the little purple flower in the middle of all those white flowers, doesn't always have that purple one, by the way. But it does always have a hairy stem. So that is one way to tell it apart from the poison hemlock, which is not good. But this is actually a wild carrot. So I would say it's probably an advanced foraging item, only because there is a very deadly one that looks similar, but if you know the differences, then you shouldn't have any problems with it. Then again, you can always grow your carrots too. Another thing that is just starting to come in on our property, we do have 2 sumacs on our property, and this one's a smooth sumac. It has not ripened up yet, so those berries on that end will turn red and will not have the hairs that the staghorn sumac has. So this is not poison sumac. Poison sumac grows in wetlands and has a it's not even actually in the same family, but it has a drooping bunch of berries that are white and stay white. But again, our land is very dry and sandy, so this is a smooth sumac. And there is another variety that you see a little further south and just maybe barely hitting in our area that's called winged sumac as well. Any of those, you can actually take the berries and soak them or make tea out of them. And we actually used some and made some regular iced tea, but then flavored it with some of the berries, because on the surface of the berries, they basically make citric acid and malic acid. And what you do by soaking them is you're taking those acids off, and that makes it taste lemony. So we flavored some, iced tea at the Hootenanny with our staghorn sumac berries. These ones aren't ready yet, but when they ripen up, we'll be able to do the same thing with those. And the advantage of these is that you won't get the hairs in the drink. They're completely smooth. So we have, just checking to see if there's anything else. We don't have many of these around. These are evening primrose. Still learning about this one a little bit. Narrow leaf variety. I only found one plant, but this was actually blooming this morning, and that is unusual for primrose. It usually blooms in the evening, which is where it gets its name from. But we do have that growing in our back as well, so I'm going to have to double check on that and make sure it's this specific type. I think it's the narrow leaf type. So we have that, and he's back, but looking it up here.
I got first page in the dessert section.
Okay, hold on. Another one that's edible that likes to take over gardens is the wrecked dayflower. This one has this little blue flower. It is taking over our garden right now. It is edible, but it has oxalic acid in it, so you actually have to cook the greens from that. I have not tried it yet, but that is another one that you can do. And I guess we'll come back to some of the others we have. Yeah, Tina, I like tea too. I'm definitely a tea girl and not a coffee drinker so much. So I get any caffeine I get from my tea, and I'm pretty picky on my teas. I like my one type the best, one company the best, and a lot of their types. The Harney and Sons, I should sell them. Yeah. But Harney and Sons tea.
Put a link to it.
Yeah, I'll
I've got to know. I used to know their national representative, who's no longer with them, but I was able to meet both Mike Harney, who's the son, and John Harney, who passed away a couple of years ago, who was the founder.
Yeah.
And John Harney was fairly unique. So I think he started in the 70s, maybe the late 60s. At that point, the idea of importing tea into the United States was, I don't know, that would be like trying to sell kombucha 10 years ago. People just, tea was tea, it was Lipton, it was cheap stuff they swept off the floor. And so he was really pretty much a forerunner, him and...
for American tea.
Yeah. You had the family that founded Bigelow, which was a specialty company, and they sort of went a lot more mainstream. They say they're a specialty and they have some things, but they really diverted to more of a heavier bulk, whereas Harney has stayed. They're a large company, but they have a small footprint in that they're in northern Connecticut. Been up there a couple of times, and they just have an amazing amount of stuff everywhere. And there's a whole bunch of others now that are, that are out there that are probably fairly comparable.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a bunch of different types of Primrose Suburban Hillbilly. They do like really arid, like sandy soil, and they do grow well where other things don't. I think that's probably why a lot of times they're considered invasive, because they're growing where...
They don't really cause a problem. I mean, they're kind of thorny, so they're a little bit annoying, but...
Primrose? Evening Primrose? Not an Evening Primrose so much. It's
it's the... Oh, I thought you were talking about the Wild Rose, which is...
No, the Evening Primrose.
Oh, the Primrose, yeah.
Which is, you were out of the room when I had that one up. It's this flower, which we actually have cinquefoil as well, but that has 5 yellow petals. So I was actually surprised to see this one, because we don't get that much of it, even though we're on really sandy soil here. But I know that's used often medicinally as well. I was going to look it up, specifics, because I don't know as much about it, but you can talk about your recipe if you want.
What brand is it that you like, Carrie?
Hot tea can't get. Store sells 2.5 hour dry. We get Harney and Sons tea through Amazon and some other online.
I get through a variety of things, because sometimes you can... Depends on the variety.
I should put a link to the Amazon stuff.
Sometimes you can beat Harney's price. It depends on the day. Harney's gotten better about that, but there was a period of time where I could go through some side channels in wholesale, and because we would buy enough in one time that I could drop the price. They end up 35-40 cents a bag. But this is the key for a lot of teas. I know it is for Harney. They told me themselves. So the old style paper woven sachet.
Treatment for whooping cough.
Those can be like 20 cents a bag. Now, what the modern geodesic silken sachets, which have a better geometry for penetrating the water and for steeping, they are the ones that are 35 to 50 cents a bag. Mm-hmm. Also, there's some concerns because they're like a woven, they're a nylon or some form of a plastic. Whereas the paper bags are, they're fully compostable. If that's a big concern. But Harney fills at the point that at least I knew, that was a while ago, they only had a few machines that did the sachets, and they were always busy. So they always do a lot of things on the standard packet. And they told me, they're like, it's the same tea, and we just can't fill them all in the silken sachet.
Yeah.
So, and then if you get a box of 50, they sell a lot of loose. So that's the nice thing. They sell a lot of specialty things in loose.
Yeah, they do.
But if you buy their cardboard boxes in 50, they're between $8 and $12. I think a lot of times up towards $12 for 50.
Yeah.
Versus getting their littler tins of 20 sachets, which
you're paying mainly for the tin.
So you're paying for the tin. You're paying for it. Now, if you're doing a restaurant, we always bought the silken sachets for restaurants because they present very nice, and you're getting $3 or $4 for a cup of tea. But for home use, I buy the packs of 50 because it's the same thing, and they do great. Now the silken ones are in a foil wrapper, which means they have a little longer shelf life. Well, I guess it's a paper foil wrapper on the ones we get too. So, and tea has a 2 or 3 year shelf life, so there is no immediate hurry to get through individually packed tea.
They don't last 3 years here.
Yeah. Now, if you have loose and it's not properly capped, that can be an issue. But your tea bags, don't get really excited about having to use them immediately.
Hi, Max. Happy Homestead. I hope you guys had a good, safe trip back, because you guys are one of the people from Mississippi, right? Who was at the Hootenanny. There are three groups from Mississippi up there.
Ginger green tea is a blend not sold. All right, so Harney, they have a bunch of green teas. They have a Japanese sencha, which is super that's mild, nice. And I think that's the highest antioxidant. They did a study on cancer suppression and antioxidants with some researchers, and I believe the sencha was the highest rating. Now they sell a cancer blend, which I think they still have it. It's a fundraiser for cancer, but they've also created the blend that showed up best for being potentially useful for fighting, helping prevent it. But the green teas, because they're younger, do the best. And sencha, the Japanese teas, this is a good primer on tea, by the way. Japanese teas are very, very light and easy to drink. The Chinese green teas can be very bitter and astringent and bother some people. The other thing is green teas need to be steeped hotter, I believe. I've double checked that. I believe it's hotter, but you steep them quicker. You steep them for 1.5 to 2 minutes, and then remove the bag, whereas other teas might be steeped another minute. And then of course the Chinese style, you put the tea in the bottom of the cup, it drops to the bottom, and you leave it in there the whole time. But the green teas will be quite grassy sometimes. And so they do a number of green teas, but they have a green tea with ginkgo and citron, which is kind of nice. The citron has a citrus flavor, and then ginkgo is supposed to be adaptogenic and healthful. Ginkgo doesn't have a lot of flavor, a little bit, but they sell a lot of that as well as their plain green. That makes a really nice iced tea. And when I do iced teas, I take, for like a gallon, I take 4, 5, 6 bags of the green tea, and then I'll throw in one English breakfast or one.
You had Earl Grey.
One Earl Grey because it's got the bergamot in it. I'll throw 1 or 2 of those in, and then sometimes I'll throw 1 mint in there to be refreshing. So you get a real nice light, mostly green tea with some nice fermented nuances of the other tea. So I'll end up with about 8 bags for a gallon, and most of it being one of the green tea blends. But yeah, green tea and ginger works really nice. So.
Yeah. They'll special order, but never do. Oh no matter what that is.
It seems like you can get anything online. You may just have to go in and do a heavy search beyond Amazon. Amazon is starting to cut down some of their variety.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Yeah. Well, they're having problems with their secondary sellers and fulfillment and getting what you want. They get so many more complaints. Yeah. From all the above reasons, because they're not monitored that well, and they're getting a lot of things coming in from overseas. So I know they've been pinching down some of that and going back a little, pushing a little more towards their own controlled and stocked.
Yeah, Tina, I think I've heard of that, but I don't remember what berry it was for.
Oh yeah, I've heard of that.
Because chemo can give horrible flavors to things, let alone make.
Well, you have things like monk fruit, which make everything taste sweet. But there's some other things.
I forgot what it was. So, oh yeah, you got the Honey and Sons webpage there.
Yeah, so I mean, there's
there's
a lot of good ones, but I can vouch for them without being sponsored by them.
I might
they do a really good job.
I might actually have some links to some of their stuff on Amazon through our kit. I'd have to look, but Amazon doesn't carry as many varieties as
they also carry some nice stuff. They do a lot of herbals and herbal blends, and they do some fun things with like flower petals and things that present nicely. So, so they do have lots of tisanes. So an herbal tea or a hot beverage or cold beverage without tea in it is actually a tisane, which is a steeped, which doesn't really matter. But that's
so that's Did you get to your
what company is it, Carrie? What's the brand?
Yeah, we'll have to search it out maybe. Did you get to answer the question on the bread pudding?
No, I haven't. All right, so this is for a fairly large batch, so you cut it down probably by 4 if you wanted. Half a gallon of milk, half a gallon of heavy cream. So that effectively makes half and half, actually. We can go into the details on that. Half and half is usually like 14%, and true 13 or 14%, I believe. And true heavy cream can be 18 or 20%. I'm sorry, it's 18 or 20%. And then if you cut it with milk, depending on what type of milk, it's a little more so. Heavy cream, I'm sorry, is more like, was it 10%? Do you remember? Anyway, so to make a gallon and half and half, or 2 quarts of milk, 2 quarts of heavy cream, 32 eggs. So that's about half a gallon of a little more, because an egg is just over 2 gallons. An egg is just over 2 ounces, about 2.5 ounces. So you're looking at a ratio of 2 quarts to 4 quarts, so about, or a little more. So you could roughly call it 2 parts dairy, 1 part whole egg. It's only got 1 pound of sugar in it, so 16 ounces of sugar. It's sweet, but big. That's big. When you're looking at the volume, and you're going to add the bread and other things. Vanilla to taste, so I usually put a good ounce or 2 in there, a good ounce of whatever you want to use for vanilla. Cinnamon or nutmeg. Nutmeg's very popular in Europe. Cinnamon we like. I'll use a little both. Excuse me.
A little tired.
Salt. I usually put in that big of a batch, almost a tablespoon of salt. So salt is an enhancer, that sweet, sour, and helps bring in balance. You can leave that out if you want to, but a little pinch of salt would be good. And then I use 1.5 loaves, Pullman loaves. So a Pullman brioche loaf is this long, and they're either domed or true Pullman is the box, so it's a square sandwich loaf. So Pullman is almost 2 loaves. So you're looking at about 3 loaves of a dense bread for that amount, which is, so we're looking at 1.5 gallons plus sugar, like almost 1.75 gallons of liquid for about 3 loaves of bread. So what you'll understand is you need a big bowl, but you need a lot of liquid to compensate for all that bread. And that will form a nice custard, and I recommend soaking it for at least half an hour.
How many people does that, how many servings is that one?
You could break it down by, so Pullman's probably 4 pounds. Average loaf, big loaf of bread is 2 pounds. The large loaf, small loaf of bread's between 1 and 1.5 pounds, depending on the density and shape. So let's say a Pullman's 3 to 4 pounds. You're looking at 5 pounds of bread there, dense bread. And don't think, sourdough and some of your dense table breads, interestingly, make phenomenal bread pudding. You might be surprised. I believe this makes 2 hotel pans. A hotel pan is 14 by 20, 14 by 21 by 2 inches deep. Your classic buffet pan. Not the deep one, but a regular one. So I believe it makes about 2 of those. And I would say, so you can break down your ounces on that to serve, 4 or 5 ounces or whatever size you want. But a hotel pan will serve 30 modest size, 50 small size portions. And if you're doing a larger portion, you're probably looking at 20 to 25 you know, generous diner style portions. So yeah.
Yeah. So there's your bread pudding.
So that's all worked out in pretty nice ratios.
Large scale recipe.
And I've been using this recipe for it's early time in New York.
Yeah.
I think this is a Mike Dolan just whipped it off of his head. Ratios. And he, English chef. I had a bunch of various dessert recipes that I like that ended up in this book for a long time.
Don't know what a bread machine does. Educate me. Have always made bread by hand. It kneads it for you and cooks it all in one machine.
That's the whole thing. It doesn't make it quite as nice and shaping mostly. And if you don't stack it correctly, it doesn't always mix it properly. But
the yeast on the opposite side is the salt.
Yeah, well, and keep the liquid on the bottom and the yeast and salt on the top so that you get a good mix.
Well, yeah, ours actually puts salt on top, but I think yeast down in the liquid.
No, it doesn't. Mostly you actually put them on. You put them both on the top.
Reverse.
You actually put them both on the top because I think what they figure is if you put it on the top, by the time it mix, this is a top mount versus a side mount one. It will mix enough into the flour that it spreads out. I believe if you put the salt in the water, so now you've made a saline, I believe that's where you can kill the yeast because you've got too much salt. It doesn't have time to settle in.
It's been a while since I used ours.
But yeah, and there's a lot. There's fancy bread machines that can be couple $100, and then there's some pretty inexpensive ones. They're not perfect in shaping, but they save a lot of time because you can dump all the ingredients and set a timer, and they'll mix it up and mix the dough or cook it. Of course, sometimes they want to walk off the table when you're not looking.
Yes.
So they push them back against the counter, and a lot of them have some suction cups. And then, of course...
Why bother? It takes less time.
Yeah, if you don't have the time to go through the whole mix and proof, you can set a loaf of bread in less than 10 minutes and walk away. It'll be done in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you can... The other thing I do is I try and make sure that the bread maker, when it's done and ready to go to cook, is not sitting right under the cabinets. It gives off a bunch of steam, but for some reason it got really hot. I don't want to have it sitting under there. But it's a contained unit, so
yeah,
but they work pretty well. If you're busy, you can have like fresh bread ready in the morning, hot bread ready in the morning.
You can also set them up where you put all your for some of the recipes, not some of them, but you can put all your ingredients in there and then have it on a timer to set off so it's all made when you get up. So you can put it on a delayed
or when you come home from work or whatever. So yeah, I think that is not the perfect loaf, but what it does is it gives you fresh homemade bread where you have control over the ingredients. And so you have exactly what you want, whether you're watching the nutrition or the quality standards, the sugar levels, whatever. You'll have total control over that. What it doesn't do is give you a classic always perfect loaf. So the next best step is to use something like a Kitchenaid or get a bread mixer, and mix up your own loaf, and then you can go through the shaping, proofing, which you need to pay a little attention to, and then of course do the bake-off in your own oven. You'll get a more artisan preparation. I don't believe there's any advantage to hand kneading over mechanical kneading, and I'll go back to that in a second. Be careful in the KitchenAids. You can do up to about a 2-pound loaf in a KitchenAid in like a 5 or 6 quart mixer. If it's a sturdy dough, it will tax the mixer and it'll push it pretty hard. Pasta dough, I mentioned, do not make more than a pound at the most in a KitchenAid. You will break it. It's too stiff. And I say watch it even then. So don't call me that you try to make pasta dough in your KitchenAid and it broke. And
be better to do it by hand.
So that one. Now you can buy some bread makers that are 6-8 quart specialized bread makers, a little more expensive. I mean bread mixers that are even sturdier, and they can do. They might be able to do 3 or 4 pounds, so a couple loaves. And then after that, you really need to go to a 15 or a 20 quart, either like a Unox or a Hobart or a small tabletop commercial mixer. They will bog down a little bit, but they are designed with a bread hook to mix bread. I would be careful with pasta dough and those even.
Yeah.
They're it's just dry and tough. So yeah, and then so going back to hand mixing versus mechanical mixing and all these gadgets and things to replicate that. So Modernist Kitchens Cuisine wrote their book. Nathan Myvold and crew wrote their book on bread. It came out a year or so ago. And one thing they'll tell you is there's all these bakers are very specific about the kneading techniques, the methods, the motions, the timing. And what they found out is if you kind of dump it all together and you get it mixed up loosely and you let it sit a while and let it proof, interestingly, the vast majority of the work will be done through the hydration of the dough and the fermentation of the yeast, and that you could lightly mix it, let it set without all these rests and re-rests and punch downs, then come back and form it and bake it, and you get almost the same results. So they fault that end, that the artisan approach of mixing may not be the holy grail of bread. But you do get some consistent results if you follow a very, very consistent pattern and method. But that's pretty interesting that and they've done a lot of it's a scientific group, an engineering group that does it. So they spent literally millions of dollars on it, trying to identify all the breads and methods and things that go into bread of the world, and came back with, hey. So you'll see some popular recipes floating around for throw together bread, no knead breads are really popular. A lot of that stemming, I think, really from their work, popularized it. I'm not sure if other people were already doing it, but don't be afraid to try a no knead bread.
They were talking about they'd hate it if they broke a Kitchenaid.
Well, you could break things that are more expensive, but Kitchenaids aren't cheap.
No,
and they're tough. I mean, if you don't abuse them, and I would say doing more than a 2 pound of an average style loaf bread is probably abusing it. I've done 2 pounds, or have I done 4 pounds? The rye sourdough, I've mixed that in a Kitchenaid.
Yeah.
And it's I have a 5-quart. They make one heavier duty now than I think the one I have, and it groans and slows down, and I'm not sure if I've done a little. I mean, I haven't. It works fine, but I'm careful because I'm not sure that I'm abusing it with that dough. So
yeah.
And use the dough hook. Don't use the paddle. Use the dough hook. Dough hooks take a lot less stress. They're designed for making dough.
Yeah.
So.
And that's a good idea, Suburban Hillbilly. You ask for gift cards and save them up to get your KitchenAid.
You can find some KitchenAids sometimes. They'll show up on Amazon. I mean, you can always get rebuilt and refurbished, and there's a little gamble there, but frequently they're backed up with some type of warranty and can be just as good. But you'll find some times where they pop up pretty inexpensive if you put a search, alert in your email for. Just be careful. KitchenAid makes a lot of models, sizes and models, and there are some variations. So what you might be able to do is get one of the slightly larger bowls that are a little more like the heavy duty ones. You might be able to get it to dial in closer to the cost of the regular one, or they'll throw in a bunch of attachments. And so, around Prime Days, which we just went through, or around pre-Christmas, Thanksgiving, you can knock a lot of price out of it. Get 20% coupons and bring it, probably knock $100 or more out of it if you buy your time on it. Now, I have a 20-quart. I have a 20-quart mixer downstairs. I don't have a dough hook. I need to buy a dough hook for it, but I have a commercial 20-quart.
That's cool.
Sitting
downstairs,
in the shop.
Being in the commercial kitchen.
This is actually sitting in the shop because I don't use it a lot, but I do. Yeah. I picked up a fairly heavily used Unox, which worked pretty well. They tend to run a little cheaper than. Hobart's. Hobart's are the standard. There's some other ones out there that are good. You can pick up a used Unox, like a 20-quart, with some good searching and buying your time, probably in the $600 to $800 range.
Still expensive for
It
the
is,
average
but if
kitchen.
you're looking at $400 to $500 on a
Yeah.
7 or 8 quart,
Yeah.
and you're serious about making bread, you might be able to find. Unox is belt driven, so there's gear. I believe Hobart's are gear driven, and Unox are belt driven.
Yeah.
I know Hobart's are belt. So, and you can get bigger. You can go from 15 and 20 quart, which are usually just different size balls on the same head, and then you go to 30 quart, which is pretty darn big and getting expensive, and then
Yeah, I bet.
and then you go 60, 80, where you start needing rolling trays to move the bowl empty because the bowl's so heavy you can't carry it around. But if you're real serious about baking or have a large group, getting a used 20 quart that hasn't been too abused will last forever. May not be out of realm for a serious baker or somebody who's especially selling some product. So
The spiralizer attachment, 13 moons like.
I've seen that. I don't have it, but I've seen it.
That's cool. Well, it is after 10 o'clock. I know we had a couple people who just joined in, but we usually start at 9.
There you go, the 4.5 for $60.
Oh,
Yep,
cool.
that's exactly how to do it. Yeah, I have
yeah.
4.5 for $5 or whatever. I've had it.
From Goodwill. Yeah.
See, that's the way to do it. Because there are so many people that get them. The other thing that happens is a lot of people will get older. They move out of their house, or they pass away, and their family inherits them, and they don't cook and they don't care. They just want them gone.
Yeah.
So any coin is good coin, and $60 to $100, and
Yeah.
so yeah, if you buy your time, you can walk away with $300, $400, $500 mixer at a real reasonable price.
Yeah.
And then again, if you use it properly, it shouldn't break. And they can be sent in to be repaired, but it shouldn't break for the life of it.
Well, it's already 10 after 10. I have to work tomorrow, and we've been going over an hour now, so I will get back to some of the Forge things next week. I will get you some of these new items that are coming up for me that I'm just recently identified. And some of them are medicinal. I don't usually do the medicinal foraging. I do it for food more. But I'll look up some stuff on those.
I can tell you, if I found a Kitchenaid for $60 sitting at a garage sale,
You'd buy it.
or somewhere like that, I think I'd probably buy it just so either as a backup or be able to give it away or something. I did get a juicer. I got the Breville or whatever juicers, which are about $300 juicer. I got one for $100 recently through a private transaction. The idea is some of the fresh product coming in. I'm thinking about being able to do some juice, needing a higher volume of juicing, which we don't really do, and trying to put into some specialty pastas. I'm too busy to do it right now, but I did pack away a pretty nice, hardly used juicer for $100. So that was sort of a little splurge, but I found it online locally and made a quick cash transaction on it. Somebody had done some juice and then decided they were done juicing, or it wasn't. Probably found out that as healthy as it is, it's got a ton of carbs and sugar in it, and that juicing all the time maybe isn't the best solution to high health. But I wasn't looking at it for that. I'm looking at it for these projects.
Yep.
So.
Anyway, we will definitely see you guys next week. Is your oven charming? No, it's our fridge.
Our fridge is something's going on with it.
Our fridge is barely staying alive right now, so it's working kind of.
I'm waiting for the repair guy, but he's a week out. He's so busy. Friday, I was told.
Our refrigerator keeps restarting itself is what it's doing. So every time it restarts itself, it makes that noise. So sorry about the background noise during the whole
it's holding
show.
cold, but it's going through a reset, and I'm trying to figure out. I don't think it's a defrost issue. I think it may be the main panel.
Yep.
Which is a pain because it's a $350 panel.
Hey, I might as well get a new fridge almost, but
well, maybe not quite that far, but it's a major.
Yeah.
It's a major failure piece, if that's what it is. It's just there's a couple other things that might be, so I need a little more help on it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I maybe have to get that because we obviously need the fridge.
Yes, we do.
So.
And it's full right now.
We do have a backup fridge, but
It's not hooked up yet.
Well, I got the big one. I don't know if that one works. I need to get on top of it and do some.
He bought a new commercial fridge.
I have a new double fridge that I need for some more storage, but that one I don't think is. Well, I need to cap off some loose wires to begin with. So that I can tell you before I plug it in needs a touch up.
Needs a little work. But anyway, yes, we do need to sign off here because it is getting late, but we will be back. And it always seems like we think of more things to talk about as we're trying to sign off. But we will be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, same place. So for those of you guys who come in a little later, we are starting at 9. That's fine. You can come in when you want to come in.
Oh yeah.
But but I feel bad when people come in right at 10 or just after 10 and we're wrapping up. But we will see you guys next week. Glad you guys were able to join us. Have a good week.
Good night.